Storytime about how I found out my stepbrother was obsessed with me. Disclaimer, this is not my storytime, it was sent to me on Instagram. So to start off, my parents got divorced when I was about 7. But my dad recently remarried about 8 months ago to this girl, let's call her Rebecca. Anyways, Rebecca has a 16-year-old son, my age, and we're gonna call him Mark. Now, I always thought Mark was a little strange because he never tried to make an effort to talk to me or my dad. But I just summed this up to be that his parents were just recently divorced and he was still adapting to this new change. Now, Mark and his mom moved in about a year ago, 4 months prior to my dad and my stepmom getting married. And ever since I moved in, I kept on noticing that all of my stuff would go missing. But I always assumed that it was just me being forgetful and leaving my stuff around the house. Now, Mark and I had one of those Jack and Jill bathrooms, but I never once saw him go into our shared bathroom. One day, Mark and I were home alone, and I decided to go take a shower. But while I was getting into the shower, I kept on hearing a weird rustling noise, and it sounded like it was coming from Mark's door. Now, I walked over to where Mark's door was, and I saw that he was putting his fingers underneath the crack between the door and between the bathroom. For example, like somebody was doing this. And now I saw this and was instantly creeped out, so I made sure to lock his door and my door, and I just stayed into the bathroom until my parents got home. I don't know why, but something in my gut told me that this guy was up to no good. Now, Mark would always avoid us. Like I said earlier, he would not come down to eat dinner or do anything like that. Now, Mark always ate in his room. And one day, his mom asked me to go give Mark his food. So I went up to his door and I knocked on it, but he did not answer. Which was weird because he is always in his room. So I knocked again, no response. And so I opened his door. But to my surprise, Mark was not in his room. Now, I saw this as the perfect opportunity for Mark and I to bond. If I covered for him and didn't tell my parents that he was sneaking out. Now, I went over to Mark's desk and I placed on his plate of food and I was going to write him like a cute little funny note saying that I was covering for him and stuff like that. When I opened his drawer to find a notepad, I found all of my missing items, including my thongs, underwear, bras, stuff like that. Even used makeup wipes. This guy was the one taking all of my stuff. Now, this immediately sent chills down my spine. Now, I kind of just stood there for a couple seconds in shock until I finally snapped out of it and started freaking out. And so I quickly searched his room for anything else that could have been mine. But that's when I found a flash drive with my name. Now, I already had a guess of what was on this flash drive, but I took it anyways and immediately plugged it into my computer. And that's when I saw that he has been recording me. When I used the bathroom when I went to sleep, he was recording me. I started searching my bathroom and my room looking for where the cameras were put. However, I did not find a camera. I found a little charging cube. But that's when I remember I saw a TikTok a long time ago about how these charging cubes can have a camera in it. Now, I started sobbing, and so I called my dad, who then called the police.
I matched with a murderer on Tinder. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. All of this happened 2 years ago, and if you are on a dating app, please be careful. I matched with this really cute guy on Tinder. He said he was a doctor, and he had all of these pictures to back it up. So I completely believed him when he said he was an oncologist. I was 22 at the time, and I realized that we did have a big age gap. You see, he was 36. Talked on Tinder for a couple of days, and then we moved over to text message. And he was so charming. He was reciting poetry to me. We even discussed the movie Pride and Prejudice. Looking back now, he asked me all of my favorite things. And from there, he started talking to me about my favorite movies, my favorite actors, favorite foods. I mean, he even sent me recipes. He was perfectly charming in every single way. Finally asked me out on a date, and we went to a beautiful, expensive dinner. The restaurant was right by a river. Then he surprised me with the boat ride on the river. Date was magical, almost too good to be true. Then things just got really strange. He was texting me nonstop for 2 days, asking me how I was, literally asking me what I ate for dinner, all over me. That's when he shows up unannounced to my apartment, and he's carrying a huge duffel bag. I mean, huge and super heavy. And he tells me that his apartment flooded and that he didn't have anybody else to stay with, essentially asking me if he could stay at my place. I really didn't know if I should, but I thought, what's the worst that could happen? We already went on a date. I told him he could sleep on my couch, but that nothing would happen between us. He agreed and promised that he wouldn't try to make any moves on me. He comes in, puts his bag down, and just starts making dinner in my kitchen. He made soup and a beautiful salad. When I tried the soup, it tasted horrible. The first thing that ran through my mind was, oh my gosh, did he put something in this? But I couldn't believe that that would even be a possibility. We watched a movie and then I went to bed. I wake up to banging on my door at 2 a.m. Do you know how scary that is? He yells, I left my phone in there, I need to get it out. Then I realized, hold on a second, you didn't even come into my bedroom. First I pretended to be asleep just to not have to open, but then he kept banging louder. And then his voice got angry. He said, I know you're awake, just let me in. I finally said, sorry, I'm not gonna let you in, you're acting strange. Then he laughed and said, oh my gosh, stop being so dramatic, just let me in. But I did not. I didn't tell him, but I called the cops. Luckily, I lived 2 minutes away from the police station. He did not know this. I went into my bathroom and told the cops cops to come right away. For the next 2 minutes, he went silent. I pressed my ear to the door. I could hear him unzipping something, putting stuff down, and suddenly he starts banging on the door again. That's when the cops knock on my door and he goes to open. 10 seconds later, the cops knock on my door and tell me it's safe to come out. But the cop says, be prepared for what you're about to see. I open my door and there on my living room floor, there's a plastic tarp, knives, handcuffs, whips. Apparently this guy had been terrorizing women all around town, but none of these women had reported him except for me. He went to prison and called me apologizing. Be careful out there.
I finally quit my job so I can finally tell the story. So I'm a nanny, or I used to be a nanny, and I have nannied for about 4 years. And I love kids. I have sisters, I love kids. But some kids can be a little bit painful, but half the time it's not even the kids. It's the parents. The parents that are like literally so oblivious to the fact that they have another person in their house taking care of their children and they don't deserve respect. So it's just literally the craziest thing. I'm traumatized. So basically I went to this house for to stay or whatever. I've never met them before, but it was like through an agency or whatever. So I trusted them. I trusted I was going to the right place. So bada bing, bada boom, I pull up. The kids aren't there because the kids are at like school or something. So the mom was just there and she wanted me to like shadow her, like basically follow her around, just help her out with some things. Until it's ready to pick up the kids. Like it really wasn't that, that much. So I'm in her car, right? Like we're just chilling. Like we're not really even like talking about much. And she's talking about how, because this was over Christmas break, she was talking about how, she wanted to get her oldest daughter, her own room because her brothers share like a room. And then she was talking about how they'll take a bath together, and I guess I said something sideways, but I didn't really mean it about her kids taking a bath together. I didn't really mean it. I don't care that your kids were taking a bath together. I don't know, it must have been a misunderstanding. And she was like, I don't want to sexualize kids, they're just kids, whatever, they can take a bath, their brothers, whatever, yada, yada, by themselves. I was like, okay, I don't care. So after a day of errand running, we come back to the house, and mind you, I haven't seen the dad all day because he had like one of the other kids. So I hadn't seen him all day until I got to the house. I introduced myself, yada, yada, helped the kids out, while they were just, I don't know what they were doing, but they were in another room. So I'm downstairs chilling with the kids, literally talking to them, asking how their day went while I'm getting ready to pack up because it was like the end of my shift or whatever. I guess like the dad's phone was like connected to the TV, or the dad's phone was connected to the TV or something, but like the TV goes on standby and it plays images and stuff like connected to your phone or your cloud or whatever. So it was doing that. I look down. I look up at the TV. Nudes. Naked pictures of this man. Naked pictures. And the kids were around, which is why I was like, you're talking about not sexualizing your... I gotta keep going.